And so, in case you're not familiar with it, the Message Magic screen, which hasn't changed for a while now, but if you're using one of the older versions, you'll notice that there are no longer any big buttons on the right-hand side of the screen. Those have all been replaced by the two windows, the user window and the message text window, which I just wanted to have more real estate. Most importantly, the user window, and I'll show you why in a sec, because the user window, in my view, is not just a user window as it used to be, really, but more like a profiling window. It allows you to see a huge amount of content about the different users that you can bring up, and I'll be going through all that. So first of all, this is the Message Magic screen, and so to start finding your way around that, just be aware that all of the buttons or all the tabs along the top of the screen are a menu system. And it goes from left to right. The activities is on the far left, and then settings, and then tools and help. All of them are really important. And so I would encourage you, as you're learning Message Magic, to click on those tabs to see what's underneath them, because there's a lot of content there, far more than what I'm going to be able to go over in a quick session like we have going on today. It starts off with being the activity side, and the activity side is broken into a number of different areas, and they're logically grouped in the way that you're going to need them. The first thing that we want to do when we're running Message Magic is we want to retrieve some users from someplace. And so in this particular menu system, it shows us where we can load them from. What it does not include in that area, just so that you're aware of it, is the searching side. The searching side is important enough on its own to warrant its own area, and that's why we see on the whole left-hand side of the screen here in Message Magic this area that's devoted to those searches. So here we could, if we want to go out into Skypeline and search just randomly for users, we can do that by entering patterns. So any pattern that you want, like you could type in a person's name. That's kind of my favorite, is I would type in somebody's name, like Wendy, for example. If I want to target, we can just pick on Wendy for a second. So for me, what I would do is I would type in a pattern, and since I'm using Skype 3.8, I can stack patterns on top of one another, the very same pattern, and I'll show you that in action. I'll put Wendy in there 5 times, and you can see I type the pattern, then click the word add, and then I can just tell it, click the button that says go search. And what's going to happen here for me using Message Magic with Skype 3.8 is it's going to go off to search for Wendy, and no matter what version of Skype you are, it's going to do that. But there are some distinct advantages to using 3.8, which I'll show you as the Wendys come up. And so you see on the bottom left-hand side of the screen here, it tells you what it's doing. That's a little log that's being created, and it kind of goes over each step that you're doing and repeats back to you, or echoes back to you, what it's doing, and then the result of that thing that you were doing. Right now it's off searching for that very first Wendy. And you'll notice too that sometimes these things, they take a little while. And to me, that's okay. It goes off and it does stuff, whatever it is that it's doing, and sometimes it takes a while depending on how busy your Skype is, or how busy your computer is, or even how much bandwidth you have. So if you've got a slow internet connection, it's going to perform slower than if you've got a really fast internet connection. But you can see what's happened here now already, that on the bottom left it says, okay, well, I went out and searched for Wendy, and then Wendy found 180 records. And it put those records, you can see on the kind of the top right-hand section of the screen, it put those 180 Wendys into that user window, into that profile window. Then on the top left, it repeats again, Wendy, okay, we got 180. Okay, now these are important numbers because they start to change, and it's important to understand the difference between them. Now again, it's going to go and it's searching now for the second one, as it mentions there or echoes back to you on the bottom left. It's searching for Wendy again, so it's looking for the second one in the window up here. Right, that's the second Wendy. Now it's come back and it says it found 176 Wendy's. And you'll notice right away, by the way, if you're using a later version of Skype, the most it's going to find is 100. Well, with 3.8 it finds more than that. It seems right around the 180 range. So the second time it says, oh, I found 176. But if you look at the top left, beside the second Wendy, it says, oh, I got 143. The reason it's different is because the 143 represents how many unique ones it found that we didn't already find during this particular search session. Okay, so even though it went out and it found 176, only 143 of them were unique. In other words, they weren't already in this user window, this profiling window on the right-hand side. Okay, the third one went away now, and it's found, oh, for some reason my little log window on the bottom left went blank. I don't know why, but, oh, there it's back. The third one, it says it found 100, so let's see, where's the first? 180, 176, 147. And according to the top left, 141 of those 147 were unique. So now it seems to have finished the fourth one, which the bottom left says it found 176 again. The top left says, oh, 59 of them were unique, and those 59 were added into the window on the top right, into the user window. Okay, so off it goes, and you can see at the top of that window on the right-hand side, it's found a total of 523 unique Wendy's. Okay, one at a time, or one pattern at a time, and so far 523. Now it's found the last one. Bottom left says 180. The top left, which hasn't quite displayed yet, will tell us how many of those were unique. And it's adding those into the window on the right. Oh, it says 175 of them were unique. Okay, so that was a pretty good find. So as you can see, those 5 Wendy's now in total gave us 698 unique Wendy's. This is all well and good. Now, you can compare this to the version of Skype that you're using, and this is important. Really, really understand this, because I'm going to show you the profile data now. Really pay attention to this profile data because it's critical to if you want to go and target these people. Okay, and targeting is important. You know, one of the things that we could do if we wanted to, I suppose, is just select everybody, put in a text message and add them all as a contact. You could do that. I mean, that's really, you know, throwing mud against the wall and hoping that some of them might respond to you, but that's like zero targeting. Well, the only targeting there is we did search patterns on Wendy, whatever that means, you know, but that pattern could be anything. But look at the profile data and compare this if you're using a later version of Skype. Watch when I scroll to the right. The display name might be different for you, by the way, if in a later version of Skype than it is for me using 3.8. As we can see, these people have never been in my friend list. Well, that's as you'd expect. It says they're all offline. Well, that's a bit misleading because we don't know if they're offline or online. And the reason we don't know is because they're not a contact of ours. According to Skype's privacy agreement, we are not allowed to see the status of somebody unless they have agreed that we can see the status of that person. Okay, so what that means is if we add somebody as a contact and they have not yet added us back as a contact, we cannot see their real status. They will appear as offline to us. Okay, and you can test that. You can load from your own personal contacts and you can start then seeing their real status. But so in other words, everybody who's not your contact or on your contact list, you can't see their status. Okay, so that's number one thing. We can see how many contacts they have. Well, that depends. Again, if they are a contact of ours, and if they've got it set on their Skype profile that they want other people to see how many contacts they have. That dictates the value in here, really. So you can, whether or not it's a real number. But it's very valuable. Once people are on your contact list, it's quite valuable information, I think, to know whether or not they are kind of a quote unquote a hitter. How many contacts do they really have? You may want to target people based on how many contacts they have. We can see their gender. Or at least I can with Skype 3.8. How about you with your later version of Skype? Now, it may seem that I don't know their gender. It could say unknown. Well, what that means is the person has not gone on their Skype profile and set their gender. Okay? So this starts giving me clues as to whether or not they've even been on their Skype profile and set anything up. That's important stuff to know because there's a lot of dead Skype accounts out there. I don't want to target dead accounts. What value would that have? I want people that are actually using their Skype account and especially using their Skype account for marketing purposes. That's what I'm going after. I want people who are active Skype users who are open to dialogue. If they're not open to dialogue, I want nothing to do with them. I'm a networker, and I'm looking for networkers is what I'm all about. Okay, and that's what this tool is all about. If all you want to do is throw mud at the wall and target everybody who may not even be using Skype, then you're in the wrong place. Okay, you're wasting your time as far as I'm concerned. If I scroll to the right, I can see things like their language. If you're using Skype 5.5 or something like that, you're not going to be able to see their language. That's important to me because I want to know if I send a message out to some people whether I can speak to them in English, right? I may only want to target English people. I may not want to have to spend time translating messages back and forth. Okay, no matter what version of Skype you're using, you should be able to see their country, province, and city if they've set it on their Skype profile. These other pieces of information, scrolling further to the right, last seen, well, that's the last time that you were both online together. If they're not a contact of yours yet, then it's always going to be the default value because you've never been online with each other before, and you can't be because they're not a contact, right? This is directly related to whether or not they're a contact and the status that you've been able to see. Their birth date, this is similar in the sense as I was mentioning before about their language. If they've been on their Skype profile and they've decided to set their birthday, then that's going to start showing up on the data that I can retrieve using Skype 3.8. If you're using a later version, you're not going to be able to see that. And you can test that just by going on your Skype profile when you're using a later version of Skype. It tells you right there in black and white in front of you what is part of your public profile or just your contacts, etc., etc. Right? Most of that stuff is not even accessible to the later versions of the Skype client. The next piece of data is the voicemail capable flag, which is something that's coming later on this year. Also very, very important is the other three pieces of information at the end, which is their home page, their mood text, and their about me text. Critical stuff as far as I'm concerned because these people who have gone onto their Skype profile and started using those pieces of information to describe themselves a little bit allow us to be able to target very effectively should we choose to. And that's what I want to do. And by the way, I'm not going to go into great detail about this during this particular recording because I do it elsewhere, but all of this information that I've just acquired about these 698 Wendy's, this profile data, that's all been stored in a local database for me. And it's stored there because I've got this option set, settings and keep profiles. But that's a kind of a topic all on its own that I'll have to address at a different point in time. Now, back to where I was in the beginning, which was just to kind of go over the basic functionality of Message Magic working with Skype, and hopefully Skype 3.8. And if you don't have 3.8 and want to get 3.8, then you can go to a site called oldapps.com. That's OLDAPPS.com. and they have a whole section devoted to every version of Skype that's ever been released. That's where I recommend that you get it. So back to this activities menu, it's, as I was mentioning, it's broken into logical sections. The first part being, where do you want to get users from? Because this product, Message Magic, allows you to get users from a variety of different places. I've just gone over with you how to get users from using the search function. Now inside the menu system, you can load people from a variety of different places. The most popular place would be from your contact list. Okay, now if you do that, if you click on that option, it's going to pop open a little window that allows you to zero in on which of the contacts that you want to load from your contact list. If you've been using categories, as they're now called in the later versions of Skype, or groups as they were called and are called in Skype 3.8, then you can set up those categories and you'll see a list of those categories pop up inside this window. If you haven't been using categories, then your only real option is to use this one at the top, which is to select all. Okay? But then you can further narrow your list if you want to grab a subsection of your contact list. You can say, well, only give me the friends, or only the pending friends, or only give me the women or the men. You can put a check mark beside birthday. That'll go and retrieve. If I leave it just like this and click OK, that would go through my entire contact list, but only give to me people whose birthday is today. Right? I may want instead, I may want it to tell it to go through the contact list, but just give me the people that are voicemail capable. Okay, I may in fact want to restrict it further and say, okay, well just give me the people that are voicemail capable that speak English, because I'm going to create a English message, voicemail message, and broadcast it to them. Okay, so that's something that you would be able to do using this particular feature. Or if you wanted to target, say, by country, then you could use the country drop-down list and pick the country. It may be that you have an opportunity that's only available in the US, for example. So that's how you would be able to target that. My most popular way, by the way, my personal greatest use of this section is to actually scroll down and then grab people who are, say, these people out of my MLMer list. All right, these are known networkers that I have in my contacts, and I've put them into a category. And I may, though, not have some of them in that category. Like, for example, I have another category that are just key leaders. And so I may want to target just the key leaders, or I might want to send out a broadcast to all the MLMers that I know that are friends of mine. And I might even just click this button down here that says friends too, as opposed to pending friends or people that are not established contacts of mine. And I would do that because somebody could have been on my list before and they've decided to remove themselves. And so and if I send out a broadcast about, whatever, I want to make sure that I'm only sending it to friends. So that's one way to do that. Of course, I'd take the voicemail capable off, because if I'm going to send a text message, I wouldn't want to use that. Right? So that's one way that I would use it, and probably the most popular way. Okay. Lately, it would be more often focused on one particular business that I'm in, so I've got a category set up for that one business. Right? And so I've got people that are in my funnel, and I presume you know what I'm talking about when I say funnel. I mean, you get this great big crowd out there, and then you start percolating people through your sales funnel. And so you move people into the active prospects and so on. Okay, so that's kind of the approach that I use. Other places that you can get people from, if you're not loading directly from your contact list, or maybe they are from your contact list, but they're a different type. I mean, you might want to use, let me see if I've got what kind of, oh no, I don't. I was going to do active chats, but I was going to show you a group chat room, because those are kind of really key and something that I've been focused in on a lot lately. And I don't have any active ones right now, so I'll have to go to a different section that is aimed primarily at those group chat rooms, and I've got those in my bookmark section. So I'll click that. And this will take a minute, by the way, because what it's got to do now is it's got to go through my contact list, which is, roughly 13,000 people. It's got to look for the bookmark chats that I have, and it's going to retrieve those. In the background, what it's going to do then is go into each one of those rooms, those chats, and it's going to find out how many people are active in that chat right now, because that's a piece of information that I want to be able to display to you the users of Message Magic. So it's off doing that, and as you can see, it's taking its sweet time about it, which is fine. You know, what I care about when I'm using Message Magic is that it actually works. I don't really personally care that it takes, a few seconds or a couple minutes or whatever to go and do a particular function. That to me, that's not really the issue. The issue for me is I just want it to work. And if it works and it does what I expect it to do, tell it to do, then that's how I can start getting results from it. I'd like it to all be blistering fast. You click a button and it just, bam, it happens. But I'm not there with the technology that I've got deployed here at home on my desktop. I use a kind of an old system. It's a dual processor, I don't know, something or another. Couple gigabytes of memory. XP is an operating system, which I like XP. So I haven't moved to any of the later versions. I like Skype 3.8, and for very good reasons. I've touched on some of those reasons. Those are not all the reasons I use 3.8, by the way. There's a whole list of reasons that I prefer it. Okay, so it has finally come back, and it's given me a list of the group chats, or at least the chats that I've had bookmarked. And typically I only bookmark group chats because those are the ones that I want to get access to again. And you can see up here in this window that right at the it lists everything alphabetically, by the way, by the topic of the room. And right at the very end of it, it's got in brackets a number. This very first one, it's got in brackets 3. And then the second one in brackets 71. That's the number of people that are in those rooms. Okay, so there could be a room here that would be very useful for me to demonstrate. Just bear with me a second here. I don't know what this one, oops, pardon me. This one, hello, did you know by 2012, 90% of all traffic, and there's 33 people in that room. Let's see what that one is. I don't even remember it. So here in the center window, what we've got are those 33 people in the room now have been loaded into the user window, the profiling window, and I can see a bunch of them are pending. I've got a friend. Let me just sort. I'm going to click on the buddy status column. That will sort it. And so I've 2 of those 33 are friends of mine, and the rest are pending by the look of it. Okay. And you can start to see, okay, well, this person here, they've got 482 contacts. This guy, David Lundgren, he's pending. He used to be on my contact list, but I deleted him. So he's gone off to pending. Let me see. What else can I see about these guys? English, India, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so anyway, that's a room full of people. You ever get pulled into a Skype kind of chat room? Message Magic is a very quick and easy way to pull everybody who's in the room right into Message Magic, and in a heartbeat you can just craft a little message and say, hey, I see we're in the same chat room together, and I looked at your profile, and it seems that you're into networking. I'm into networking too. Maybe there's some dialogue that we can have together, get to know each other, see what we're up to, share our successes, blah, blah, blah. craft whatever message you want, and then add them as a contact, all of them at the same time. Those contacts, by the way, are pretty. Let me just check here. I'm going to load from my contact list because I think I have a category of people that I added. Just bear with me a second. Where did I put that? Added. Okay, no, that's not it. Added happy birthday. Sorry, the kind of a lull here in the record. I'm looking for a specific group of people. Oh, here it is. It's the added group chats, 2,714. I'm going to just load the friends. So 2,714, those are the people that are in the rooms that I got pulled into. I've never actually personally created a group chat in Skype. I don't really like them, to be honest with you. I think that they're a good way to give away all your contacts personally. And so I've never created them unless I've created a small one because I want to, for example, what's a good use of it? If I wanted to, I'm in a business called Sizzle. If I wanted to create a chat that was me and my sponsor and my sponsor's sponsor and their sponsor and their sponsor, so I've got this little room set up that I could send out messages, say, hey, I need some help on a three-way call. Are any of you available? I would set up a room like that. But I would never in a million years set up a group chat where I just started to give away my contacts. That just doesn't make sense to me. Okay, so here, well look, 662 people out of that group added me. That's a pretty good response rate. Okay, these are friends now. Okay, very, very valuable. Look at this guy. He's got 3,278 contacts. Let me sort by that field. Click it a couple times so that the biggest number goes on the top. Well, look at this. I mean, this lady, she has 5,600 contacts. This person, 5,200. This person, 38. Are these people that are useful to know? Absolutely. Golden. And where did they come from? They came from a chat room that I got pulled into. This is good, valuable stuff. Anyway, so the bigger let me just say this, the bigger that your contact list gets, the more likely it is that you personally will get pulled into rooms where you can start conversing with the people in that room. Okay? Very important stuff to know. Now let's move on. So you can retrieve users from a variety of places. Most importantly for me, and this is part of that feature I was mentioning before where I do a search and all those profiles get loaded into a local database for me. This is load save profiles. This is the option that I would use to extract people from that database. Okay, so once they're local, then I can really start zeroing in on the people that I want. Okay, once we've got people loaded into this window, then it's time to actually do something with them. So to do something though, we have to select which ones we want to select. We could either select all, select only the online ones, or we could choose, more frequently than not, this option, which is the more selection options, which allows us to zero in on some key aspects of that particular group of contacts. So there again, we can pick just the friends or just the pending ones, the males, the females, the birthday is today, voicemail capable, people that have set their home page, people that have set their mood text, people that have something on there about me, or we can use this one on the right that says one of those three essentially, the home page or the mood text or the about me text. We might want to zero in on just the gunners, so to speak. In other words, the people that have the most contacts. So we could say, well, just select the ones that have at least 1,000 contacts. Okay. We could decide we want to pick by language or by country as well. I'm going to just pick 1,000 contacts, see what happens there. So you can see now on this little window here, on the right-hand side, that it went and it put a check mark beside all the ones that have at least 1,000 contacts. And up at the top right, you can see it selected 51 people. So think about that. Here I've been pulled into these chat rooms, and because of that, I just send out this little warm greeting, hey, we're in the same chat room and blah, blah, blah. Do you want to network? And, these 662 people said, yeah, let's talk. 51 of those people have at least 1,000 contacts. Holy. You got to do an awful lot of searching for Wendy's to find people like that, let me tell you. No, I could just say, if I wanted to, I could type in some sort of message here and then use the right-click option over top of the message text and say, send message to users. See, these are all friends of mine. They're all people that have got a whole bunch of users. And if I want to quickly send out a message to who I would consider to be the most active of the Skype users, well, I could send that message to them, in a heartbeat, send message to users. And as Message Magic goes to do that, then I can go grab myself a glass of water or something, while it chugs away and processes it. And of course, I showed you the right-click way to do that, but there's also the user action section. Once you've got people, you retrieved them from somewhere, you've selected the section of people that you want to deal with, then you have to decide, well, what is it that I want to do with those people? Do I want to add them to my contact list? Do I want to send them a message? Am I doing some sort of contact management related activity? Maybe I want to add them to a specific category that I've just created in order to deal with them later. Perhaps I want to remove them from a category. Maybe I want to delete them entirely from my Skype. This is a bunch of, maybe I've selected all the people who are pending still. I mentioned that I have about 13,000 or over 13,000, I guess, contacts on my list. Well, they're not all approved contacts or friends, because as I add a friend onto my contact list, then they become pending, right? So they're on my contact list, but they're not really a contact yet. And so I might have added them there when? A year ago or 2 years ago. Well, at some point I may want to just, do some contact management related stuff and delete the people from my Skype account who have been pending too long. Because keep in mind that if a person's on your Skype contact list, what that means is the Skype client has to monitor it. Keep in mind this about Skype. Skype is a peer-to-peer type of piece of software. And what that means is you've got this little Skype client on your computer. I've got this little Skype client on my computer. And you and I can send messages back and forth. And so let's pretend for a second that I have one contact, and that contact is you. And you have one contact, and that contact is me. If you're offline and I send you a message, my Skype is going to tell me that you're offline, and it will deliver the message when you're online. Okay? And so you're offline, nothing is happening. Then you come online, guess what it does? It says, okay, well, you're online now. Go check your contacts to see if any of them are online. And oh, yeah, there's Grant. And Grant sent you a message. Okay, he's online, you're online. Here, I've delivered the message. Now send this little notice back to Grant saying the message has been delivered. Okay, that's actually quite a bit of activity if you think about it. All of what happens just because of that one little message. It has to check your contact list. It has to check my status. It has to, is there anything? Oh, there's something coming from Grant. Let's bring that. Let's deliver it. Let's change the status of that now to be delivered. Let's let Grant know it's been delivered. All right, so there's quite a bit of activity going on there, all because we are peer-to-peer. Well, now you start adding people to your contact list, you're adding an awful lot of activity that Skype has to then monitor. Okay, so if you start adding, 10 contacts, 100 contacts, 1,000 contacts, and you start delivering 10 messages, 100 messages, 1,000 messages. Think about the level of activity that you're creating for that little piece of software that you've got running on your computer. It's a ton of activity, and that's what starts to slow down Skype, especially if you're using one of the later versions of Skype, because it stores a lot of stuff locally, and it starts to create this massive database. The later versions of Skype even store every search that you do. Crazy, I know. Doesn't do that in 3.8, but think about that. You go out and you search for Wendy like I did 5 times. Well, what happens with mine? It doesn't store it locally. Well, with 4.2 and higher, what it does store it locally. So what that means is if you search for Wendy again, you know what's going to happen? You're going to get the same Wendy's. And how does that happen? It's because it stored Wendy as a search pattern on your computer, and it also stored the 100 Wendy's that you found. And so when you do another search for Wendy, guess what? It doesn't even have to go to the Skype database. All it does is go to your local database that it created. Well, if you did 100 searches or 1,000 searches, well, what's happening? You're creating a massive Skype database that's local. And so even when you go to start Skype, it'll start to slow down in a huge way. So just be aware of that. Skype 3.8 doesn't do that. If you've got a list of users, that was a bit of an aside, obviously. If you've got a list of users, maybe you used one of the retrieve option to load users from a CSV file. And maybe it's a list of users that your friend gave to you. You've selected them all, and maybe what you want to do is just add those people to your local prospect database. Okay, so that's an option to do that. Or if you've got this list of users and you want to send it to somebody, you can use the save to CSV file to do that. The last option, of course, is if you have a little broadcast that you want to send out to mobile phones, then you would have loaded the list of mobile phone numbers to send it to, created a message, selected them, and then this option to send that message to all those mobile phones. There's businesses, entire businesses built around just that one little feature. And here it's just a small part of, and we almost don't even mention it very often, a small part of Message Magic and what it can do. You know, I mean, the part of my goal here is to take a look at what people are doing successfully as a business, and if possible, just add that feature into Message Magic so that you have that feature without having to spend all that extra fortune, really. So that's kind of it for the different activities. One of the things that I like to point out to people is in the tools section, and that is get in the habit of going into Tools, Advanced, and save your Skype categories. Because what that's going to do is it's going to save all of the categories that you've set up in Skype and all of the people that are within those categories. Okay, and that's important because as you've probably noticed by now, Skype itself will provide a way for you to back up your contacts. But here's what I've noticed from personal experience, and I don't want you to go through the same grief. What I noticed is even though you have a backup of your contact file, it does not store your categories. So if over time you've got a growing list of categories, a growing list of contacts, and those contacts are associated with all of those different categories, those relationships, contacts inside which categories, those are really important to you. And since Skype doesn't provide a way for you to back up those categories and the contacts in those categories, we have in Message Magic. So use that feature. After you've used it, it also gives you an option if you want to go and view them separately just to see how we store them on your local computer. And if need be, you could actually restore those categories. Okay, and if you're starting in a brand new Skype account for whatever reason, you could even extract the users from, once you've restored all the categories, you could extract all the users and then add them as contacts on your new Skype account. The other main feature that I want to mention today is when you get going in Message Magic, one of the very first options that you're going to want to do is this one in the advanced area, and that is bookmark all group chats. What that's going to do is it's going to go through, parse through all of your personal Skype history, and it's going to look for any group chats that you've ever been in. And if it finds one, it's going to bookmark it for you. And that process, by the way, is going to take some time, especially if you've kept your history since the beginning of time and you've been using Skype for a while. That's a lot of history to go through, and we go through every chat one at a time to see if it's a bookmark or to see if it's a group chat, and if it is, it's going to put a bookmark beside it. And the reason that's important, well, I showed you, because I found 662 people in those group chats, and those group chat rooms came from somebody else. Right? So it's very important. And once you've gone through this process to bookmark them all, then of course you've got the activities, retrieve users, load bookmark chats to go and get the people and load them into your user window. Okay, so that's kind of the one other area that I really need to stress. And all too often I find that people, for whatever reason, they kind of don't even look. And so please do yourself a favor and look in the menu area that's called Help. There's a wealth of information in there. A lot of time was spent putting material in there, and it's there for your benefit. It's not there for my benefit. I already know all this stuff inside out. It's there for yours. So if you click on Help, you can click on Help again, and that'll pop up in a little window that talks about all these different features and functions inside Message Magic and where they are. There's a user guide that's available, and that user guide is available in 4 languages so far. It's a little bit dated because I've changed the software and added features since that document was created, but very useful. It's actually quite light reading. I called it initially the Advanced User's Guide, but that's a bit of a misnaming because the reality is it's kind of a I'm going to hold your hand, and a step-by-step guide on getting up and going in Message Magic. And it points out things like if you're going to be growing your contact list, a prospecting account is mandatory. Create a new account, a new Skype account, and do your prospecting activities in that account, not in your main Skype account. You can go, there's a link to go to the training area, which contains some videos on how to use the software. Also contains a link to this particular room that we're all in right now. The Resource Center contains more videos and other materials that you might find useful. The frequently asked questions, that kind of covers both the business side of Message Magic as well as the software side. If you need to, it gives an area to go and enter a support ticket. And there's even other links that you might find useful, like the Message Magic login page, or the recent updates page, or the change log. Well, what's changed in the software? Well, there's a page that is devoted to pointing out what the differences are between the different versions. Did you know that as a paying member of Message Magic, I give you 50 free emails each and every day? These are business opportunity seeker type emails. I have a database of millions of email addresses that I've acquired, and I make those available free of charge to the people who are paying for Message Magic. Okay, so that's very useful. The caveat there is you must be a paying member, and you must actually be using the Message Magic software. And it does do that check, by the way. I do know who uses the software and who doesn't use the software. That's all built in, of course. And then, like every piece of software, there's an About Me page. Okay, so do click around. Do get familiar with these different settings, the activities, the check for updates feature. Right now we're at version 2.5.5.0. I actually have in development 256, and I've got a couple more little changes to make before I release it. Okay, so do click around on the buttons. If you've got any questions about message magic about the business, like the comp plan, or you need some guidance in any way, feel free to contact me on Skype. My Skype ID is Webloot, spelled Webloot. Add me as a contact and let's talk. Don't be intimidated by the fact that I own the company and you might think that I'm too busy to talk to you. That's not true. I'm I'm anxious to talk to you. If you've got an issue on your plate that you need help with, I want to know about it. Okay? I am a principal source of information for you, so don't think that you're going to abuse my time by asking me a question, because nothing could be further from the truth. Okay, so that's really it for the basic functionality and layout of Message Magic. I hope that you have found that useful. And so with that, I'm going to turn off the recording and start asking whether or not there's something that you need me to cover. So just bear with me a second, please.